Hey guys, back again with another episode of Digital Artcast. Running on now our fourth year, and or is it third year? I forget. But yeah, it's been a while. It has been a while since I think the last one was in December. But yeah, it's been an interesting couple of months for me. Basically pushing this kind of 3D narrative or 3D work I've been doing, and some kind of hardcore studying, some freelance gigs. So it's been busy time, and I've not really managed to get an episode in. But I wanted to just get one out and do an episode because it has been a while, and I'm trying to stay on the kind of path of at least one a month. So I managed to managed to come across another 3D artist also. And he has been putting out some rather amazing content on YouTube, on ArtStation, tutorial wise, and just general knowledge for young artists. And I thought his stuff was so incredible. I thought I would get him on to talk. Also because, like in the past I'd said we'd done more kind of legends in the field, Mark Burnett, Scott Robertson. So we talked to these guys who've had these careers for 20, 30 years. But I wanted to start focusing on, like with Ian Vickner, I wanted to focus on people who were kind of young to the industry or had just kind of started, and get their view on how they're coping with the industry as well. Because asking Scott and Mark to retail their times of just joining those companies, because it was a while ago now, it's a bit harder. So it's good to have someone who's kind of just at the cutting edge like me, just about to start. So today we're talking to Moses Saintfleur. And Moses, at the moment, is an artist up in Montreal, Canada, working for Cyberconnect. And he's on the show today to talk to us. So thank you very much, Moses, for giving up your time, and welcome.
Hey, what's up? You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes, I have unmuted you. You're able to talk.
Okay, sweet. Thanks for the intro, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good though. I'm good. It's pretty cold out here, and I'm from Miami, so getting used to the cold is probably never going to happen for me.
Yeah, I'm from Scotland, so we are just born in the cold. So it's, temperatures for us are not a thing. But yeah, I can imagine Canada. I've been told, I know people across in a couple of studios like EA and stuff, and yeah, they say there's some of their winters are quite harsh. So
like I honestly thought I'd never experienced negative temperatures in my life until I came here. I remember one time I was walking, and 2 minutes into the walk, I almost just passed out, dude. Like,
oh wow, that cold,
me, dude. Like, my face was.
Wow.
When you walk outside in the cold and your face just starts to hurt.
Oh wow, yeah, I don't think I've actually experienced that. So is that, what was the coldest that we get in Miami? Was it quite warm there all the time, even in winter?
50 something degrees.
Wow.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah, for Fahrenheit, that's still
that's cold in Miami. That's cold.
Yeah, that's a mild day, but oh my god, that's like our summer. That's like temperatures we would be outside sunbathing in. So yeah, it varies. In Miami, obviously, where it is on the coast, it's prone to beaches and partying. So that must be a weird kind of even just lifestyle change, moving from what I would assume is more like a party town. Although I don't know Miami in depth, I just know the touristy bit. But I'm imagining it'd be quite a kind of culture shock moving up there.
Yeah, like I feel like people here are more approachable, and it's like, I don't want to use the wrong terms, but like I feel like people in Miami are kind of more like, like not aggressive, but they're not really too like friendly when it comes to like strangers. Or, like, you go up to someone random and then they'll look at you weird, like, yo, like, why are you talking to me sometimes? But,
yeah, because like the last thing I heard from Miami was the guy who had the bath salts basically trip and went around and ate people's faces.
Dude. So like the Florida, can I curse on here or no? I'm not sure.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, all right, go. Okay, so yeah, man, Florida headlines, fucking crazy. You always see something start with Florida man does this or does that, like it's crazy. Man. We got like the craziest headlines.
I could imagine, yeah, because I think obviously between where you are just now and where you were before, that is obviously, it's the difference between America and Canada, and people have always said Canadians are a lot more approachable and friendly when it comes to just random conversations. Because I don't know, like even LA, like people I know who work there and a lot of the California studios have said that the city can be a bit harsh sometimes, and it's really expensive to live there, and like especially in LA, there's like 7 million people in one city. It's, oh god, yeah. So yeah, Canada for me would be a good retreat, I think.
Canada's dope,
like I said earlier,
it's dope though. Like it's super affordable to live here. Like everyone's chill. Like it's cool.
Yeah,
I like.
Yeah, I could imagine. No, I mean, like yeah, again, people have known. I think the first kind of guys I knew up there. Like I started the podcast a couple of years back with a guy called Colin Cyril, and Colin was working out of a place called LA Animation. And he was he loved it up there. Like he said, Canada. He's been to a couple of different places, but Canada is just such a lovely place to live. And yeah, I think like you said, it's very affordable. People have good healthcare and stuff, and generally crime's quite low. So yeah, if you want to kind of live anywhere, it would be a good place to live. But yeah, Cyberconnect as well. I mean, what was the attraction for working there? Was it the projects? Was it was it just a job at the time? There was something you wanted to do, or
You mean like how I got started, like working here, like how I got the job here?
yeah, well, we can maybe even dive into that, but I think maybe even better to go back because like kind of how long you've been in the industry
Okay.
and how you got started.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, man. There's so many angles I could approach this from. Okay, so I think it's dope that you invited me on here. First of all, because like you said in the beginning, there's a lot of podcasts and like videos with like industry veterans, people who's been working in games for a long time. You don't really hear too much about like the new guys coming in, and
Exactly.
I'm definitely one of those new guys.
Yeah.
Professionally,
But still producing awesome content though.
oh man, I try to. I'm happy you think that. But yeah, man, like okay, professionally, like AAA studio wise, I've been in the industry for 6 months now.
Okay.
And 6 months or almost 6 months, but 6 months.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
before this, like I was in school. Okay, let me backtrack. So I graduate high school, I go to college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, right? So I majored in computer science or some shit like that. But I was just taking like the general education classes, the classes you have to take no matter what major you choose. So I didn't really
Right.
take
Yeah.
any major specific classes yet. So I was able to transfer my credits to a digital art school. The school is called Digital Media Arts College in Boca Raton, Florida.
Okay.
So I went there for computer animation at first because I thought I wanted to do animation. But
Yeah, didn't we all?
I got there and I was like, this isn't really that fun, to be honest. For me, it wasn't really that fun, honestly. I got so frustrated. I was like, okay, something's not right here. So I also had to take like modeling and like rendering classes. So when I got those classes, I was like, man, this is really fun. So then I was like, okay, I think this is where my focus needs to be. So I ended up switching from animation to game art.
Oh, cool.
So I went to the game art course, and that's where I thought I wanted to be too. This is funny. Yeah. So I ended up switching back to the animation course because I just wasn't. I didn't agree with how the game art course was structured. So, but the animation major allowed me to still do like model lighting and texturing, my environment art stuff. Still, you kind of had like two routes you could go to. You could go with like the animation route, or you could just go with the model lighting and texturing route. I just went with the model lighting and texturing. So, during school, I was just trying to like get my name out there because I wanted to graduate with a job. Like I was so scared that I wouldn't be able to graduate with a job, dude. Like, oh man, like, is this really a career that I can do? Like, are people really gonna want me? So I was like, man, I gotta get my name out there right now so I can be good. So like 2 years before I graduate, I'm just like on ArtStation. I did a few freelance projects. I worked on this one game for a very short amount of time called, I think it was called Fantasium, something like that. I made a few props for that game. It's like a fantasy type game. And I also worked on this other game on Steam called Days of War for a few months. I made some props and material for that game. So I was happy I was getting stuff like on my resume before I graduated. I feel like I was in a good place. So, a few months before I graduate, I'm just getting a bunch of art tests. So I'm like, okay, I got a bunch of art tests. I guess I'm good if I'm getting art tests, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm passing these interviews. I'm getting art tests. Man, I take so many art tests. I never got a call back. I'm like, oh my God, like what's going on? And there's some of those art tests I actually passed. Like I know I passed it. And So I would have a second interview after that, and I guess I just fucked up the second interview,
Oh
and
no.
they just didn't want to hire me or something. Plus, I was in America, so it's always easier to hire someone in the country if you can. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably a factor too. And since a bunch of factors, but anyway,
Yeah.
so I graduate. I don't want to like drag this on if I'm like not really.
No. You're good,
Okay,
man. This interview is your platform to talk about your story. So
okay.
yeah, you take as much time as you
All
need.
right, sweet. So I graduate December 2016. I don't have a fucking job, man. I'm losing my mind, right? I'm like, oh my god, dude, like my life is over. I have to go to the military. I was actually planning on going to the military. Like, if I couldn't find a job after graduation, I would, dude. I was so ready to just go to the military and just like abandon all of
Oh,
this.
wow.
But
Yeah.
I ended up getting a job as a video editor at this other place near my school. One of my friends that I went to school with, hooked me up with that, and I was there for like a few months, and then I realized, why the fuck am I video editing? Like, I spent thousands of dollars to go to school to learn, you know, game art, and I'm not even doing this. So why the fuck did I go to school? Why did I just put myself in debt for no reason? So I was like, okay, I gotta fucking chase my dream. So I ended up leaving that, and I just worked on. At this time, I didn't have too much on my portfolio. Um, I had like one or two environments on there, and I was like, I need to make something dope because obviously I can't get a job with what I have in my portfolio. Otherwise, I would have had one already. So that's when I got working on my Hunter's Manor scene on my art station. And I was like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
my next environment has to get me a job. If this doesn't get me a job, I'm going to the military because there's really nothing else for me to do. So
Yeah.
I spent like a month and a half working on this environment. I'm like, man, like this shit has to be fucking good. So I'm working through it. I go through so many emotions, dude. I'm like, this is awesome. The next day, I'm like, man, this fucking sucks, man. I'm gonna fail. I'm not gonna get the job I want. And I'm like, it's just back and forth constantly, dude. Like when you're working on a project, you go through that blackout stage. You can't really see the end result so often all the
Yeah.
time, and you're just like second guessing yourself. And then, eventually, I got to a point where I was like, okay, this is looking the way I want it to look. This is probably gonna,
Yeah.
do it for me. So I finished the scene. It did really well. Like a lot of people liked it. And I was like, okay, I think I fucking did good. So I started applying everywhere, dude. I fucking applied literally to every studio I could think of. So
Yeah.
I got a lot of callbacks too. I was like, okay, this is it. I'm gonna fucking do this. So I get a bunch of callbacks. I actually fucked up here because I took way too many art tests that I could handle. I was getting so many art tests to the point where I had to drop some of them. Like I had to email the studio and tell them I wouldn't be able to finish it because I was just getting so much. I was just overwhelming myself. But at the same time, I was just grabbing everything I could because this was my last shot and I didn't want to,
Yeah.
fuck this up. So I was just grabbing everything I could. And then I had to let some of those projects go because, it was too much. And then I ended up looking at Cyberconnect's 2 website because I wanted to go to Japan. Remember I told you that I was interested in working as like an English teacher in Japan.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I kind of want to go to Japan too. So
Mhm.
let me just see what kind of game studios are in Japan, or if they're even hiring. So I went to Cyberconnect's 2 page and I saw that they just opened a studio in Montreal and they were looking for
Okay.
artists. I'm like, oh, all right. So I apply, and like a week later, I get like an email saying they're interested in having an interview. So I'm like fucking excited too. I'm like, oh snap! Like they actually replied. So
Yeah.
I go through an interview. It was actually scary because there were like 3 people interviewing me on Skype, and I'm just by myself. So I just feel like like I felt like they were just like staring at me, like staring into my soul. I'm like, oh my
Oh
god, man, this is
God.
too much for me. This is just too much.
Yeah.
And so it was the lead environment artist there because I applied as an environment artist, and then there was the lead of the studio, like the studio manager who doesn't speak any English, just Japanese. and the translator. So, there's the guy who doesn't speak English, the translator, and the lead environment artist, and they're all asking me questions. I'm freaking out because I felt like this is a studio that has made one of my favorite games, which is the Sewer's Wrath. And I'm just fucking freaking out. And the Naruto game. So I'm freaking out like, man, if this actually happens, like, this is insane. So I go through the first interview and it goes really well. And I'm just like, man, I hope they call me back. I just fucking hope they call me back. Like a week or two pass and they call me back and they tell me they want to have a second interview with me. So I'm just like freaking out, dude. I'm just like screaming. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, man. Like they want me back for another interview. And the day comes and dude, like my heart is just like thumping, dude. Like my heart's not even beating at this point. It's literally just like fucking thumping, dude. Like I'm just so scared to not fuck this up. So the second interview comes, I get on Skype again, and at this point, it's even more intense than the last one because not only are all three people were there from the last interview, but there's also the CEO of the company and two more other people, and we're just like three-way on Skype at this point. And dude, it was just intense, dude, having all these questions like thrown at me. Half of them don't speak English. I'm just like, oh my god, dude, like I don't know what's going on. So
what were they asking you? Kind of like with the more intense stuff, was it more just your actual process breakdown of what you were doing?
Questioning wasn't intense. It was just so many people. I felt like I think there were like 5 or 6 people there. And I felt like it was just like 6 against 1. Like,
oh, wow.
Because I've been in a lot of interviews and I've actually given interviews myself when I was at my video editing studio. So I've given interviews, so I know like when someone interviews you, really what people are looking for is the thing to not hire you. Like they're not basically. Really like they know you're good because you wouldn't be in the interview if you weren't good. They're really just looking for a reason to not hire you at that point. So I'm like, there's 6 different brains on this, like in this meeting, looking for a reason to not hire me. I can't give any of them a reason. So that's just what's going through my brain. I'm probably like overthinking because I overthink a lot. So I'm just like, fuck, man, like I'm gonna lose this. I'm gonna fucking lose. So they're asking me questions, but I felt really good though at the same time because I felt really confident in my skills, and it was a company I really resonated with because of the work that they've already done. And I really love Japanese culture, so it was just like really good. I just felt really good at the same time. So I was really confident, and I did it, and the interview ended, and I was just like, man, like this is it. Like either they're gonna call me and tell me I got it, or they're just probably gonna ignore me forever. I don't know. So like a week later, I think 2 weeks later, man, I'm taking a shower, right? And my phone's on the sink. I hear my phone. Like, I'm just waiting. Like, every day during these 2 weeks, I'm just waiting for an email. So I hear my Gmail notification go off as I'm taking a shower. I get out the shower and I grab my phone, dude. And I'm looking and I see it says, like, Cyberconnect 2. I'm like, oh, my God, dude. My heart is just fucking beating like crazy. I open the email. And it starts off like, congratulations. Like, you've been accepted.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my fucking dude. I start screaming, dude. I'm like fucking dripping, like soaking with water because I was in the shower. I was like living with my parents too at the time. So I was like screaming. I was like, Mom, like I got the job, Mom. And, so man, I was just so fucking happy, dude. Like, man.
Yeah. See, that's the thing I was noticing with guys who, had worked in Blizzard 20 years and whatever else. Like, it's hard to recapture that emotion of getting your first job, and like that's why that story was so fucking awesome to listen to, because like you can hear still the passion in your voice of like, I wanted to get that job, and when you got it, you were so excited because everybody's first. Like, I know so many people I've interviewed, so many people I spoke to in industry talks and went to these events and spoke to people from EA, Blizzard, all these places, Ubisoft. and everybody's like first job was like the one I remember the most, because it was like you said, like people always think, oh, I'm never getting into the industry, I'm never, like, I've just recently came from an interview for a games company as well, and I didn't get it, but like I can still remember play by play like what they were asking me and what I'd done when I went in, and because you analyze that stuff so much, because your first job is so important to you. And I think it's different for you as well, because like your first job was like almost with your dream company, and that's rare, because some people will work like, you know, like a mobile game studio or something smaller before they go and get a bigger studio. But yeah, you've kind of went straight to AAA, which is rare and super awesome. And I can obviously tell by the quality of your work that it's well deserved, because your stuff is like, you do stuff like I want to do. Like your portfolio is like what I want my portfolio to look. So like later on, I will be nudging you for some tips and some mentor sessions. But yeah, that's why I love interviewing people who are just in the industry, because yeah, you could hear the excitement in your voice, and that's what I think people need to cling on to when, you know, they're going to interviews and they're not getting successful. You know, you've still got to hold into that. Why do I want to work here? Why do I want to work in the industry? I need to remember that. So yeah, so
And
it's
it was
awesome
like
to
it was
hear.
really intense for me too, because I was living with my parents, and this job was out of the country. So that meant like not only did I get a job working at a AAA studio, like I'm gonna have to move out of the country and live by myself for the first time.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
my life was gonna change, you know. So it was really intense.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yo, this is crazy,
Yeah. And you nearly died in a snowstorm. I mean, talk about
dude.
life
Like
experience.
every like I think the lowest temperature I've experienced here was like negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit or something. And
Oh
I'm just
my
like,
god!
dude,
Wow, doesn't even get that cold in Scotland. I think the lowest we've had it is like in Celsius, like -3, -5 degrees
yo,
Celsius.
it's
And
murderous, dude. Like it can literally kill you, bro. Like if you got like the
yeah,
proper
yeah.
clothing on, you would literally die. Like
Oh wow, yeah. So you've been through school, you've got your first job. Can you kind of summarize like your first 6 months working? Like, how is it? Has the job been what you expected? Have you been doing stuff you thought you'd be doing, or?
okay, so yes and no.
Okay.
When I was in school, I tried so hard to learn every single thing that came out. So I was using Maya and Photoshop and ZBrush really. And
Yeah.
I see Quixel come out. This is like 2014, 2015. I hear about Quixel, like Indu and Dido and all that, and I'm just like, yo, like this is what texturing is gonna fucking be now. So I'm like, okay, I gotta learn this now. So then I'm using that, and then I see Substance come out, and I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
what the fuck is this, dude? Like everyone's using this, so now I gotta learn this. So I'm learning Substance Painter, Substance Designer, and Marmoset Toolbag comes out. I'm like, oh snap, like what's this? So like I'm literally like hopping on everything that comes out, and I'm just like, okay, I need to learn all this because when I get a job, they're probably gonna expect me to learn all this.
Of course.
So you know, you need to when you're looking for a job, you need to make yourself look as attractive as possible. But
Mhm.
you know, now that I've actually got the job and been working for 6 months, you really
Yep.
well, I'm not gonna. I'm just speaking from in my experience. I
Of
don't
course. Yeah.
use a lot of the software that I thought I would be using. Like it's completely different, and I don't want to speak too much like on the details because like some of this stuff is like secretive.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, like a lot of the stuff that I really don't need to use. Like you can use it if you want to, but depending on the project, the art direction, and all that, you kind of have to follow certain guidelines. And a lot of the stuff you think you'll be using, you probably won't be using. Not, I'm not gonna say you won't be using them at all, but depends. It really depends on the project because every project requires something different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's always good to learn as much as you can because for your personal work, it's gonna help you there, and you never
Of
know when
course.
you'll need to use it, especially if you go to a
Yeah.
different studio that probably uses those tools. But
Mhm.
is it what I expected it to be? I expected it to be a lot more intense. I felt like I worked so hard. Like when I was in school, man, like I didn't go out at all, dude. Like I literally just went to school,
Yeah.
came straight home, did the same exact thing. Like I just worked on my stuff literally every day. I mean, I procrastinated and played video games a lot too, but I really did not go out, dude. Like, I really just
Mm.
watched tutorials all day, every day. I'd go to bed at like 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 in the morning, dude, just
Yeah.
working on stuff. And I'm just like, I have a lot of unfinished projects too, which I'm not really proud about,
Yeah.
but like, man, I have so
No, no.
many unfinished projects. It's insane.
Yeah.
And now that I'm actually like working, I feel like it's a lot more chill than it is because I really stressed myself to the point where this is not as intense as I, made it for myself before, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I was going to say just quickly, but the guys I've spoken to, it is very similar. Even the guy who I'm working with closely, who's kind of, almost mentoring me, he was saying the same, like, he worked really hard to basically get in the industry, and then once he was in, yeah, know that it's not a hard job to do. They've still got to go and work 9 to 5, but it's no like when he was killing himself, learning stuff and learning tools to get in the industry. Once you're in, you kind of, you learn at your own pace, and there is times where, like he's working on a kind of AAA project, and he kind of just manages his own time. There's no real super harsh deadlines. Like he just kind of, if he has something to do, he just kind of plans it out, and he has his own process, and the studio trusts him basically. Obviously because he's an accomplished artist, so he just kind of gets to pick and choose what he thinks is best for the project. But yeah, it's not like when you're learning and you have to basically like you said, you're up to 6 in the morning learning stuff, and you're learning every tool there is. But then when you get in a studio, because of their pipeline, you'll maybe only use 2 or 3 programs specifically, because you can't deviate too much from that, because licenses cost money and people have to learn new software. So yeah.
Yeah. Also, damn, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I also have realized how easy it is to just I I don't know if this is the right term, but like be stagnant or just be like not really feel the need to upgrade yourself. I feel like, if that makes any sense, because I feel
Yeah.
like it's so like, man, I don't even know really the right term. Like, I really don't need to force myself to learn too many new things at this point because I don't need to use them at work. So it's like I can
Yeah.
understand why some artists just get into the industry and just like plateau off because it's just so easy to just like not really have to learn all this new shit. Like there's something new coming out like every month, I feel like.
Yeah.
Um I'm at the point where I do not want to fall into that pocket or whatever. Like I really don't want to get into the situation where I just work and then I come home and I really don't really do anything. Like I just go to work, do my little thing, and then come home and then like, repeat the same routine.
Yeah.
And now I'm really just like with the whole YouTube thing I'm doing and everything, like I'm trying to find other ways to use my use my skill. Um
Yeah.
I just
I mean, like, I can understand it, because I know what you're saying. Like, because you've learned so much before you got into the studio, and the studio is utilizing those skills you've already learned, then yeah, you don't have to really learn new stuff on top of that, because yeah, it's like you can basically get to a point where you can almost relax a little, and like I think the industry for me, because like I'm going to Trojan Horses a Unicorn industry workshops, IMAG in Paris, and these places are full of speakers for like people who I've idolized all these years, and you see them go and do these talks about this amazing career they've had. And then you meet the 500 people or the 1,000 people that go to this event, and they're all super passionate. But like the industry is full of millions of people, and no every single person, no every single artist in the world has to be like constantly killing themselves. There is some people I know in the industry who like go to their job 9 to 5, they come home and they just play with their dog, or they go
and
walks, or they play
there's
games.
nothing
And
wrong with that either. Like some people like if you're I feel like if you're
no,
happy, like
yeah,
then that's your life. You're happy, like you're
of
good.
course,
But
yeah,
me in particular, like I tried so hard to get into the industry. I feel like it was such an impossible task for me. I would never achieve it. So I didn't even really look beyond what I would do after I got of
Got
this
in it.
industry.
Yeah.
So this was the ultimate goal for me. So
Yeah.
I reached that goal, and it's like, what the fuck do I do now?
No, yeah, because that whole getting into the industry becomes your whole identity, and the way the industry's built, because things like ArtStation and 8 Level sit every day and publish stuff like, look at this new guy and look how awesome he is, and he's only 19 years old, and that for me also eats at me, because I had a career as an engineer till I was 28, and then I left to go to school for 5 years, and now I'm looking for that first job, but like I'm then coming into the industry in my 30s, when people, like I said, like your age, and obviously people who are like 19, 20, who are doing amazing things are getting hired. It makes me feel like I'm just no good enough, and I'm not doing enough. Like even Pablo Dominguez, I met him at industry workshops last year, and he's working at ILM in London on like Star Wars, and he's 23 years old, and I'm like, oh my god! But
It's not even that, man.
he,
Like, how? Okay, so how long have you been doing 3D?
I mean, I've done some in university, and then I've done some projects in Finnish. But I would say seriously doing 3D since November.
November.
I would
So
say,
November
yeah,
2018.
yes,
I mean, I think it's really bad to compare. I compare myself a lot, all the time, but it
yes,
is really bad to compare to anyone else but yourself. Because
of course,
everyone has their own uh, journey. Everyone experiences things differently. Everyone has their own time for things, and everyone
of course,
processes the world and things that they go through completely differently.
yeah.
So
And I think, yeah, I used to say that now, years obviously since I've kind of mellowed and learned the industry, but I've said that it isn't really wise to compare yourself to other people, but try and compare yourself to an older version of you.
yeah,
Like where were you like a year ago? What were you doing? Know what everybody else was doing. And I sent you, this will be like I've never really done this on the interview, but like I've sent you something on Discord, and that was like my latest 3D piece I'd done. And again, probably since, yeah, like I said, November, I've been doing 3D. And when I made that, I felt like, oh, that was good. That was okay. Like compared to, like I says, you know, uh, I'd only been properly modeling for 3 or 4 months, but that payphone was like the culmination of a couple of months speed modeling, and yeah, like I compared myself to like what was I like when I was building things in October, November, and it's definitely for me a level up, like a definitely an improvement from where I came from. So
that's really all you have to see it as. You just have to, constantly try and be like I try and be better than I was every, you know, from the next day. I try and be better than I was yesterday and constantly try and upgrade. And when you look at it like that, you really can see improvement when you're actually just focusing on yourself instead of other people. But
yeah,
I think it's also good to, see where other people are at, not to compare yourself, but to see the kind of, quality bar that you need to hit. And
yeah, of
I think
course,
something that's kind of misunderstood a lot is the competitiveness of this industry, or just being competitive in general, because this is a very competitive industry. And
yeah, of course, yeah.
when you're going to that interview, you're basically going up against everyone else who wants a job, dude. And
Yeah, I mean, I talked to the guys at my old university when I went to do a talk there, and I said to the guys, I mean, what was funny actually was the first question I said was, hands up everybody who knows what ArtStation is, and I think I got maybe 3 people put their hand up, but I was saying to them, when you graduate, you're not just competing with everybody in this class, not even just everybody in Scotland, but like everybody
world.
in the world.
And
So
I realized that really quickly. Like when I was in school, I wanted to be the best. Like I'm a very competitive person. I don't put anyone down like, oh, I'm better than this person or you suck. Like I don't do any of that. But I'm also
yeah,
very competitive. Like I want to be the best. So if I know there's someone else in my class that is like really good at
yeah,
making stuff, I'm like, yo, I gotta beat this guy. Like, I gotta be better than this guy. But
yeah,
it's me doing this in order to really push myself to really be better. I really don't care like if I'm better than this guy or not. It's not that. It's just that competitiveness just really helps, man. Like even like you see it. I don't watch sports at all. Like I'm not really a sports guy, but
yeah,
in sports, dude, like it's the perfect like example of that. Like the competitiveness of sports really encourages athletes to work out more, like work out harder, be better. Like it really, I feel like that's a really good example of like the competitive, like how good being competitive is, because
Yes.
the world itself is just a competitive place. Like you can't just ignore that, because I know like I would go to school with some people, and they'll know I'm competitive. Like when the teacher gives like an assignment to do something, I'm like, yo, like, I'm gonna kill it, man. Like my shit's gonna be
Yeah.
dope. Like, and I'm saying this because I want other people to feel my energy, so they can also want to make something, and we can kind of just
Yeah.
like uh use each other's energy as like a stepping stone to just like really make great stuff. But some people don't see it like that. They see it like, oh, this is not a competition. I don't want to compete with you. But like, dude, like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean,
Yeah.
man?
Yeah. I think it's even a thing where people misunderstand the competitive nature is, like you said, you don't want to be nasty to people. You don't want to like kind of lead over people like I'm better than
Yeah,
you. You want to have like almost camaraderie where you're inspired another, and that's the reason I go to these events. That's the reason I started the podcast. That's the reason I started making things and talking to students, because like I want to share my passion with everybody else. And people always say when they meet me, they can sense my passion about the industry. And I'm like, I was always like, how can you sense that? But like talking to you, I can totally feel the same energy that I have when I talk about art and games and the industry. You're just so excited about it and you want to share it with everybody. And it's difficult when you're in a school or a class when people don't have that energy, and then it almost saps a little of your energy
yeah,
and makes you less enthusiastic. But um, you know, I think even when I was in uni, I was actually the opposite. I was almost down on myself and doubting my skills, and spent a lot of time like I didn't even really, I could never decide what I wanted to do. I was, because there was so much, right? I was like, I originally wanted to do 2D concept, and I was like, oh, I could do 2D characters, or I could do this, or VFX, and it was only like I graduated last July, and then in like I spent like the summer going to a couple of events, including THU, and then when I went to THU, I actually got a really rare chance to speak to Raphael Grizzetti from Sony Santa Monica, and I was talking to him about like his 3D sculpts, and I was like, man, I'd always love to do 3D, and I think it would be really cool, and but I feel like it's too late, and he was like, man, just do it. Like, spend a couple of months, like, really, killing it and see how you feel about it and then make a decision. Don't just stand here and be like, oh, I don't know, it might be too difficult, because then you'll never do anything. And then, even then, later on, I spoke to one of my friends, Spiridon, and he was kind of the cultural heart of the community. And he was like, he basically said something to me that made a lot of sense. He was like, you're someone I've known a lot of years who's spent his time like standing on the sidewalk looking both ways, but never crossed the street. And I was like, yeah, that is kind of me. Like, because I was like, oh, I'd love to do that or that, but I don't know, and never spent time or effort. But since I've been hardcore in the 3D stuff since November, like I have seen an improvement. I have seen a thing that now I enjoy doing it. I think it's awesome, and I like creating environments. Um, so yeah, it's like the passion will get you through so much, but you really need to try and make a decision at one point about what you want to do as well. And yeah, and then for 3D artists, it's also, I've heard that eventually you'll specialize beyond 3D environments, because then like people also go into like 3D environments plus tech work, and they make tools, or they go into 3D and they do a little bit of concept as well, or texture work, or so yeah, it's definitely an industry where you have to have a passion, and then of course you've made it, and you know you're working there now. So I
yeah. I
mean,
mean, it's never too late to start anything. Honestly, like it's never too. Like, how old are you?
I'm 33 now,
33.
so
So
yeah,
look at this is how I look at it. 33, right?
yeah,
Out of
mm,
100 years, like lifespan, you're only
yeah,
33% of the way there. You're not even halfway, man.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
there's so much time, and the way technology is, dude. Like, we will live longer.
yeah,
So
yeah,
honestly, like anytime I have like an idea or like a passion for something, I just go and just like I try and do it immediately, because
yeah, of course,
guessing like or assuming like, oh man, this is not gonna work, it's too late for me, man. Like you're just wasting time. Like,
yeah,
and man, dude, like I've wasted so much time doing this, and now
yeah.
I try so hard to not do this at all. Like I just,
Waste time and
yeah, like
utilize. Yeah,
honestly, I just do and then think after, but not
yep,
like I'm still aware. Like I have a lot of awareness. So I'm still like, seeing where things could go wrong, or, I'm aware, but I do and then think after, because there's this thing that I have a lot and I am still trying to overcome this. This is why I have a lot of work in progress, projects, is because I try and analyze everything, which eventually paralyzes me, and I'm just not doing
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So I just try and, I have an idea or something. Let me just do this and then figure out my way through this as I'm doing it. And I think that's just a really good way of, how to kind of go through life in general.
Yeah. It's also part of this book. I'm sure I saw it years ago. It was called the 3 second rule, and it was basically where you say you're wanting to go to the gym most days, but you're always like, the more you think about it, you're like, oh, I've got to pack my bag, and I've got to, the woman who wrote the book was like, well, within, I think it's 5 seconds, even within 5 seconds, you should just be like, right, I'm going to go do it, and you go do it, and you don't think too much, because the more you think, the more your brain almost shuts you down, because your brain is built to keep you safe. So, rather than view the disappointment or view the hardship, it just was like, oh, well, maybe no. But if you within 5 seconds are like, right, let's go do it, then it basically trumps everything
Yes,
else.
man. Dude, like, that is a really good example, because
Yeah.
okay, so last month, right, I joined the gym.
Yeah.
You know how many times I went to that gym?
Oh God, yeah. Not a lot, I'm guessing.
I went one time, dude. One time. I went
Oh
once.
God, yeah.
I canceled my membership the following month.
Oh Jesus,
Because,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I would be like, man, I need to go to the gym. And then I'd
Yeah.
be like, man, I gotta get my stuff ready. I gotta go walk to the gym. It's fucking cold outside. Then I gotta be there for like an
Yeah.
hour or two, and then I gotta walk back. And then it was like, man, I could be doing 3D shit or doing something else in that amount of time.
No. I mean,
Talk like,
yeah, of course. The thing I found, like, because I've just lost a lot of weight recently. Like, I was quite heavy, and I kind of shifted a bunch of weight in a short time. But the way I found it was the easiest way to do it was to find something you love doing that is also exercise. So for me, like, I love cycling. So I used to go out and ride my bike, 20 kilometers a night. And for me, that was my exercise. And, because not everybody, I think, functions in a gym. Like, for some people, I know it's like it's rock climbing, or it's martial arts, or it's like, fencing club or whatever. But, I think finding that thing that, like, is your passion and sportsmanship is, like, more important than going to a gym, because a gym is so stagnant, so standalone. Like, even in the gym, I think when I've joined recently as well, I've been a couple of times, but I think what the thing I'll take away from that gym is because they do all their classes free. So they do like yoga, and they do
yeah,
CrossFit, and they do all this kind of stuff. So I'd rather go and do the classes than sit in the gym on my
yeah,
own pumping
yeah,
weights, because, like, I like the idea of being in a group and doing things together.
yeah.
So,
I think that's another thing,
so
because
be
like my gym didn't really have all that. Like, it's pretty boring. Like, I
yeah,
really don't like
yeah.
working out by myself, honestly.
Yeah, you kind of need people. I think because we're pack animals by nature, right? So you need people to be beside you to help you. It's the same with art, right? When people start in art, they get into drawing groups, or they go into like with me and you. Like, I set up the Discord for those artists so we can all just back and
Yeah,
forth and feed off each other's passions. So, I think you need that. You need some kind of study group mentality within people to help push you, because
yeah. Like,
you can't always do it yourself.
another thing, like, do you play shooters, like first person shooters?
More, yeah, Overwatch stuff like
Okay,
that. Yeah,
so my first like game that I really got hooked on was Call of Duty, right? So I would play Call of Duty against like bots offline, right? And
yeah.
I'm just like, man, like this shit is easy. Then I go to my uncle's house and we play online against actual like people. And I
Oh God,
realized the fucking skill gap that was there. I thought I was good
Jesus, yeah.
until I started playing against other people, and I'm just like, man, I actually fucking suck. And
Yeah.
I feel like this shares similarities with just like art and just like anything in general, because if you're just focused on yourself and not really looking like what's out there in the
Of
world, like
course, yeah.
you're gonna think your shit is really good until you meet the
Yeah.
other people, and then you're gonna
Yeah.
see the competition and just like where you need to be, and then you're gonna be like, fuck, man, like I really have a long way to go. So I think it's really important to
Yeah.
involve yourself, just like in our communities and stuff like that, and also
Of
make
course.
friends too. Making friends
Yeah.
is so important. Like I think it's making
Yeah.
friends is just as important as working on your skill.
Yeah, because I mean, like, so many people I've talked to about people coming into the industry, they've said that they would rather hire someone that they felt they could chill next to for 8 hours a day, and be like okay, as opposed to somebody who's like incredible at art but is an asshole. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like if you're working next to somebody for 8 hours a day and the guy's just insufferable and you can't really talk to them, like what is the point of them being good? Because if you can't communicate in a team environment, then you're just fighting the wrong battles. You know what I mean?
Like, fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but yeah, basically making friends,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
is, is
So
important.
also
Yeah,
like another thing about that, like all my opportunities that I've ever gotten in games has been through
yeah,
a referral of someone else.
yeah.
And man, like I'm not saying like go on the ArtStation and like make friends to, use them for opportunities, but
Of
generally make
course,
friends, but they will give you there will be opportunities. So you need to always
of
like
course.
be aware of that.
Yeah, no, I mean definitely. Like one of my friends, Ian, like I met him through a map paint academy when I thought like, oh, I want to do map painting. But like we've stayed friends, and Ian's worked at Frame Store and NPC in a couple of places, and now he's helping me with opportunities to do 3D for other people because he's like, I know this guy who's doing this thing, and he needs somebody for 3D, and so yeah, like. I'm not asking him to go out and give me work, but he's like, because we're friends and like I've sometimes helped him with things or I've done things for him. He's like, well, he wants to repay the favor. He wants to help me. So yeah, it's super important because yeah, what else are you going to do? You can't be on an island in a bubble on your own. You need to go out, and
And
that's
it
why
makes it
ArtStation's
makes
great. And I
it
say,
makes it really harder to get a job too when you don't have any friends because the
oh, of
guys who
course, yeah,
has friends and they refer their friends, they're gonna get picked first all the time.
yeah, hundred
All
percent,
the
yeah. And ArtStation's a good. That's why I say to students really early. Get on ArtStation, look at what's been put out. Like obviously your stuff doesn't have to be that good straight away, but it gives you something to aim for. Like it gives you a bar that is high enough that like, well, my stuff, can I compare it to this
yeah.
person? Right? Is it close enough? How close am I? And that helps you push because, like you said, when you make stuff in uni, people you can get an A. Like I got A, when I did I think my first ever 3D environment, it was terrible. It was like one of the top 10 worst sci-fi corridors I think I'd ever made, or people had ever made in the history of sci-fi corridors. But like the guys at the uni were like, "Well, that's an A," and I was like, "Oh, great." But then if I'd showed that to an employer, they'd be like, "Well, no, like it's terrible." Like there was so much of that was just lighting and texture, and like the modeling was terrible. So yeah, like it's almost like yeah, you've got to be in those communities and outside of the bubble because you need to know what's relevant and current and what will actually get you a job as opposed to what will just look
Yeah,
nice.
like when I was working on my first environments and all that, like I would make friends with just people who are like on the same level as me. And we
Yeah,
would just talk and like share ideas, help each other. And I would see like growth in me and those people. So like I see like all of us just like growing together. And it's just like so dope because like I remember when I was doing this, I had a friend who we were like I felt like we were like at the same level. And low key, like I saw him as like a rival. like I
yeah, yeah,
like every time he posted something, I'm like, yo, like that motivated me to also do something sick. And he eventually got a job at like Insomniac, and he tried to help me get a job there too, but they didn't really go with me. And
yeah,
I saw another friend of mine get a job at Quixel, and I'm just like, yo, like this is so dope because I'm seeing all these guys just like fucking like entering the industry. And I'm just like, man, that's so sick. Like I'm up next. Like I have to be. And I feel like
yeah,
you're kind of you are like a product of like your environment, the people you talk to, like who you're around. So like just surround yourself with people as hungry as you, and
yeah.
yo, you're just gonna get there eventually.
Well, I mean, there's a saying that you are the sum total or average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So, like, if you are hanging around with super negative people, then yeah, sure, you'll be super negative. But then if you're surrounded by positive, motivated people, then of course you will then feed off that and want to be motivated and positive as well. So, yeah, that's kind of why I'm starting to make this Discord thing and add people like yourself and Scott and Ian and make a community that we can compare stuff, we can share ideas, we can talk amongst and Scott, like earlier Scott was saying, I've got an idea for I'm doing some environment stuff. Can I get your feedback? And you were like, sure, but yeah, that's great because that helps other people grow and then you bring people up and then you're almost mentoring and teaching people. So yeah, it's a whole cycle, and I think it was Scott Robertson said it, but I don't think it was his saying, but he said, the product or the purpose of when you get up to the top is that you need to send the elevator back down. And I think that's very relevant because, yeah, you have to be able to bring the next generation up and make them better, because then it takes the whole industry to another level and thrives and changes the learning method. So yeah, making friends is super
Yeah,
important.
definitely, 100%.
Yeah. So you've been there now for roughly 6 months, and then obviously I'm assuming you're planning to stay there. But then outside of your job, what's your next kind of big project? Is there anything else you're planning just now to be like your next kind of hurdle, or is it YouTube
Yeah,
or?
so now I really don't know where I want to, like, where else I want to go in the industry, honestly. Like, to be 100%. I like doing this stuff,
Yeah.
but I think where I am most, well, where I belong is, teaching people, really. I find so much
Yeah.
joy in that, and it's just super fun for me. So right now, my next goal is to just create the best game art course on the internet
Okay.
for
Yeah.
everyone to have access to. And yeah, because like when I went to school, I honestly feel like I school was a waste of time for me. In a certain sense,
Oh yeah.
actually, it wasn't a waste of time. It was a waste of money.
Of
It was a
course. Yeah.
waste of money. Like dude, I graduated the best of my class, and first of all, I didn't even go to graduation because I just felt like it was kind of a joke to me the fact that I got the like award for best of my class. Like, are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
meaning like there's no way I fucking got that. You know what I mean? Like, because I saw like where I was in terms of like skill level and where I needed to be. So I'm just like, yo, this is retarded.
Yeah.
And I just don't want other people to fall victim to spending so much money going to school thinking that's the only way, because it's really not the only way. You could like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's 2019, man. Everything you need to know is on the internet. Like, it's
Of
on the
course.
internet. Like, I've never had an interview where my degree even mattered.
Yeah.
I was never asked about my degree in any interview, and I've been to a lot of interviews.
Yeah.
So it's really just a waste of money, honestly. It's a waste of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
I think more on top of that is that degrees aren't a waste of time and money per se, but I think for our industry, it definitely is.
yeah.
Like
No, not
because,
all
like,
degrees. Like, if you're going to school to be like a surgeon or like a lawyer and all that, then yeah, you definitely need a degree. Like, it makes sense. But
of course,
for
yeah,
something like art or something you could just learn online, like,
yeah,
you don't need a degree for that.
of course, yeah, yeah.
But
So I mean, no, I agree with you. It's one interviewed Mark Burnett, and he'd been at Blizzard since he was like in his early 20s. He was saying that he never got a degree, he never got any kind of formal education, and yeah, now he basically had worked at Blizzard for so many years and has his own company, but he's just done it off his own back. He's just learned stuff online or practiced and then made his own career out of it. But yeah, it's not a thing where you need to be qualified in any way officially. As long as you
I
can
think
physically
I
do
think
the
the
job.
only exception in terms of schools for me is like Noman. I think Noman is really the only school I can think of that is just like
Cool. Yeah.
worth the
No,
money.
definitely.
Worth the money. Because they have a high placement rate in the industry and they fucking know what the fuck they're doing. Like, they know.
I think it's definitely, yeah. It's one of these things. Like it's the same with Art Center in Pasadena, like in California. Like, yeah, they have some of the bit because a lot of their teachers are people who are sitting in a job in the industry. Like a lot of guys who teach at Noman are like teaching on their lunch break from like Naughty Dog or Blizzard. Like they're coming from the studio to teach. And sure, when you've got that
Yeah.
caliber of teacher, then of course you're going to learn so much more. But then when I was dealing with people who were lecturers, I mean, in their own right, well educated, so they had degrees and PhDs, mostly PhDs, and things that weren't related, like TV or some kind of science, and they'd never worked a day in their life in the industry. Then yeah, sure, like it makes it so much harder. I think the best thing we had when we were in that course, particularly, we had a guy who had been and worked on I think a Need for Speed franchise with EA, and then got made redundant, but he came back and taught at the school, and he was our best source of information at times because yeah, he'd been out and worked, so we got to ask him a ton of questions, and you know that was rare, and I think that's more what courses like that need. They need people, like I mean, even when I was doing my third year, and I got lucky to go and work at Axis Studios in Glasgow, and when I was there, they were working on Destiny 2 and Warhammer and the League of Legends trailer. And, seeing that caliber, that quality, definitely in my third year, I was like, well, now I know what I need to hit. And yeah, like, it's just, if people had walked out of our university class into Access and saw what actually goes on, then yeah, they would have got a shock, because like there was people, like you probably know yourself, there was people who got the assignments and never done them, or just didn't give a shit, or tried but just done enough to get past. And at times that was also me. I'm going to admit,
Yeah, me too.
I didn't push myself, because I think it was more even just the fact that I didn't want to do it. It was more just the fact that, like, I was like you, it's you overanalyze things to a point, you paralyze yourself from even starting. And that takes a while to get over. And I think for me it was finding a discipline that I really enjoyed, and I think I haven't really found that till I left uni, and now I'm doing 3D and I love that. But yeah, it's very hard. But yeah, definitely, like, university, I think in any series is what you put in it. Like, if you're in those classes and you're sitting in ArtStation every day and you're learning tutorials on top of your work, then sure, you'll get more out of that course than any other people. But if you just sit and do your university work and nothing
Yeah, it's
else,
definitely not going to be enough. Like, you can't expect to get everything you know out of school, because that's just not how it works. Like, you actually need to put into practice. And I gotta admit too, like, when I was in school, the way my grading, like the grading system was in my school, was very weird. We had homework assignments, classwork assignments, midterm exam, and final exam. I didn't do any of my homework assignments, and I probably did like half of the classwork assignments. And the reason is because the midterm exam and the final exam made up like 80% of the grade put together. So all I focused on was those exams. I did not focus on, I didn't do any homework, dude. I didn't do any fucking homework. Every time I started a new class, my focus was on the exam. 100% every time, because my main goal was to just get in the industry. Like, I just wanted to make dope projects, and I wanted to spend as much time as possible on my exams, because those are the things that I'm actually going to put in my portfolio. So that's really all I focused on. But that's just the way my school was structured. And yeah, I just kind of took advantage of that system and just really made it work for me. Yeah, but at the same time,
I mean,
schools like Noman, how I said, like, they're like, that's like one of the best schools, and I think it's actually worth it. But it's expensive, and not everyone can move to California, so it's not accessible to everyone.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, because like, I think one of their terms, like one of their years, roughly costs about $25,000, and that's just, for some people, that's their entire education in 4 years. Like, I don't think I even spent that in 4 years. So, we're lucky across here. We have very cheap, affordable, free education. And not everybody has that at hand, and it's hard to justify going and spending a couple of terms at no man. Like, even I remember listening to an interview with Justin Fields, who has Ironclad Studios, but he's a 3D artist, and he only went for, I think, 2 terms because it was all he could afford. But by then he had an opportunity to get a job. So yeah, it's a very hard thing to kind of balance, which is like, do I go and study at a more specialized school? Do I spend the money? Is it worth it? But like I said, there's so much, like, 80 Level and ArtStation and a couple other websites. There's enough resources out there, even on YouTube. There's enough free stuff you can learn without having to spend money.
100%.
Yeah, and you're obviously you're pumping out some of that content. I mean, I think even that video that you put out about how to make money, by selling your 3D models, I think within like half an hour I was selling stuff.
Dude, really? Like, I'm telling you, dude, like, so many people just don't know. Like, honestly, you do not need to work at a studio to make money. There's so many other shit so much shit you could do to make money, and selling like project files or making tutorials on Gumroad and all that, like, that sells, man. Like, that fucking sells. But it really depends on the person. Like, some people don't like putting in all that work. Some people just like having, instructions and just following those. Like, it really depends on the person. But that is definitely a lane that is completely possible.
Yeah. And then, like you said, like the stuff you've been putting out on YouTube has been getting like a lot of attention, and people have been watching your stuff, and you were on 80 Level, and so I mean, you're doing the right stuff, man. And I mean, sometimes I know you can feel like, oh well, I'm not doing enough, but then if you're getting picked up by these kind of big websites, or people are seeing your stuff on YouTube, then like, I think you even saw on your Facebook the other day, like a fan or somebody you knew like sent like a message or something to you.
I was like, yo, that blew my mind when I got that voice message. I was like, yo. This is actually.
I never actually listened to it. What did they say?
He was basically like, "Yo, like, thank you, man. Like, I really love what you're doing, and you're really helping me. and I kind of needed this.
Oh,
He was just basically thanking me for the content I was putting out, and I was just like, "Yo, are you kidding me? Like, this is actually
oh,
what I'm like." When I got that, I was like, "Yo, this is what I need to be doing with my life. Like, this is
yeah,
where I belong." So
yeah. No, it was the same when I done my first ever talk at my old university, and like my LinkedIn basically got flooded with people messaging me like, "Yo, man, like your talk," like because initially when I left it, I thought I was maybe a bit too harsh by saying like it's super hard to get in there. You're going to need to work really hard. But when I told people all the stuff I was doing on the side, like my Hearthstone challenge and stuff, like doing a Hearthstone study card every day for a month and all the different projects, like they were emailing me like, "Yo, dude, like you really put me on the track and you made me like totally like get serious about my career and like reaffirm like what I was doing and where I need to go next." And I was like, "Oh shit, man!" Like you get misty eyed. You're like, "Oh fuck!" Like, "Oh, people actually enjoyed it." Was, oh my
yeah,
god.
man.
So yeah, I think I'd like to do that at one point as well. I think if I get in the industry, I'd love to mentor or help people because so many people have helped me. Like including the guy who's kind of helping me at the moment. I mean, he can't help as much now because he's back into production mode, but you know even taking the month or two he did at the time to help me just push me initially made all the difference. And I probably couldn't have got as far as I've got now without him helping. And I can never repay the guy, but like he said, basically he started this for the same reason. Like he knew universities in his district and his area were shit, and he wanted to provide an education that was like a real education, like a proper education. So yeah, like I totally feel and relate to what you're saying, where you want to help people because it's harder to get the proper education in school, so you need
And
help
honestly,
outside of
like,
it.
I just find more joy actually helping people and seeing them like feel good
Progress.
about like the new knowledge, or just like honestly like making an environment that does really well for me does not like it's just such on a lower caliber than actually
Mm,
like helping and seeing someone like use the information that I've given them. And
yeah.
man, it's just like a completely different feeling, dude. Man, like it just feels so good.
Yeah. So are you going to be setting up like a Patreon to do mentorships or something like that? Is that in the plan or?
I feel like mentorships are kind of like I've actually kind of put that on pause right now because it's kind of it's just really I feel like it's not as efficient as I could make it. Like doing one-on-one mentorship. So that's why I'm trying to create a game art course for everyone could actually use, because I've noticed like with the mentor sessions I've had so far, it's kind of like the same thing. Like everyone kind of has the
Right.
same problem. So it's just like I might as well just like make a whole course addressing a lot of these
Yep.
and
Of course.
just knock it all at the park like in one go.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I mean that makes a lot of sense, man. Because yeah, when I probably the questions I would ever ask you about 3D art and environment art, it would be the same questions that everybody else would have, like how do you build high to low poly, how do you texture UV
yeah,
light,
dude,
how do you work in game
that's
engine.
exactly like what I've been getting. Like,
Yeah, basically. No, I mean one of the better courses I saw for that, or I'm doing just now, is Simon. Oh God, I forget the guy's name. Simon Bock or Bjork or
oh,
um, well, he's an artist on Overwatch at Blizzard, but
oh,
he done a tutorial series. It was basically the military radio. I don't know if you've seen it, where he builds a 3D military green radio in high to low poly. But his breakdown of that is like he builds, like he does the sourcing and setting up in the reference files. Then high poly is like in four different parts. Then the low poly is in another four different parts. And then he bakes, he textures, UVs, works through Marmoset, renders in Photoshop. Like he basically takes you like through like start to finish a whole like this is how you make a game asset basically. And yeah, so he's one of the better ones I've seen because he also has other tutorials like the turret and stuff. But he's one of the more comprehensive people I've seen doing actual start to finish stuff on asset creation. So
yeah. Like another thing with
yeah,
the mentor thing I've been doing, I really don't want to get into the position where I really, because I don't know everything. Like I don't know everything.
yeah,
So I really don't want to get into a position where someone asks me how to do something and I'm not really that experienced in it. And like for example, like one of my sessions, like one of the students was like, he was interested in like doing vertex painting in Unreal, and I was like, okay, I've done that before, but I'm not really that uh, experienced in doing that. So
right.
I didn't like I let him know right off the bat to to kind of like let's focus on something else. But I really don't want to continuously like tell people, okay, I don't really know how to do this, so let's not do this. So that's why I really just want to put something out where I put all my knowledge out on the table, and then people can just take what they want from it. But I don't want to kind of like box people into what they can ask me, and just like I just don't want to waste people's time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I mean, I it's difficult though when you say like I don't want to waste people's time, and you don't know everything, but you know enough. Like, and I'm not saying you could be teaching people who've worked in Blizzard for 20 years, but you probably could be teaching people who are just in the industry or are still looking for that first breakthrough thing and want to do so there's probably a niche. Every artist who puts out courses will find a niche for that course.
I really just I really just want my audience, like the people I'm actually like teaching stuff, to be just like the students who are kind of like still in school, or people who just graduated, and kind of people still who just recently got into the industry, like not really the advanced guys because they know way more than me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so no, I mean that makes sense, and I think it's basically just a thing where every artist needs to basically find a market or find a niche, and it can take some time, but once you find it, then it becomes a thing where you become the person, the idol, the leader for those people who want to make that kind of life and they want to study that kind of stuff, and like, I mean, from what I've seen so far, and considering how short a time you've been in the industry, sure, like there's going to be no question that you're going to be teaching really well at one point with people and making awesome courses, because the stuff you're already putting out is awesome. So, and then that's why I interviewed you and that's why you're here. But and then you're only just at the start of your career, so imagine in 5 years what your stuff's going to look like and how your portfolio is going to be different, and who you can say that you've helped in the industry. And so it's a whole thing. But yeah, man, you're going to do great things. I can already tell.
Thank you so much, man. That actually means a lot.
No, you're welcome, man. Don't worry. Okay, so we'll probably end it about there, because I have to go for about an hour. I find at this point people start teetering off and falling asleep. So, but definitely, because it's been great talking to you and having you on. So, I'm sure we'll get you back on at one point, because like you said, you've only just started. So, once you get your next project or your next big thing, then sure, we'll have you back. And thanks for giving up your time to come and talk, man. It was really awesome.
Oh man, my pleasure, man. Thank you for inviting me.
That's fine, dude. It's fine. For those of you guys who are listening, I'll put all of Moses' links in the bottom in the description. You can hit him up at one point, I'm sure, if you need to ask any questions. I'm sure he'll be open to that.
I answer every single question that I get. Every comment on my YouTube, literally every message, I answer every single thing. So I am reachable, 100%.
Yeah, man, definitely. I'll put your YouTube and your ArtStation and all that kind of stuff, and then leave stuff below. And even if you guys want to comment on this video, I'm sure you'll see that as well and reply to you. But man, just to thank Moses again for coming on, and for you guys for tuning in and listening. Basically just kind of stay with me. The last month and a half has been difficult because getting through the holidays and taking on a new discipline and learning and teaching, it's been hard, but I'm coming to a point now where I've kind of got a rhythm back into what I'm doing. So hopefully we'll try and get at least one of these out every month, if not every 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll have more people coming. I have a couple of people lined up actually. It's just nailing down times and dates and when they're free. So we'll get it organised, but hopefully the first of many to come anyway. And you guys can also check us out on, depending how you're listening, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcast services. So, however you guys want to listen to us, there's multiple ways. And of course, recently we're just heading towards 1,300 subscribers. So we're kind of getting there, but I'll start pushing again, and hopefully we can hit that 2K by the end of this year. That's my goal anyway. So. Okay. Thanks again, like I said, to Moses and to everyone who's tuned in, and we will see you guys later. Thank you.
Hey guys.